Hi, welcome. Today I want to discuss Beware of Pity or Impatience of the Heart by Stefan Zweig. The reason why I picked up this book was because of Stefan Fry. I love this man, I love watching his interviews, and he recommended Beware of Pity. He said it was one of the best books that he has ever read. And so I ended up buying it. I didn't have any experience with his work yet. I did read his biography of Marie Antoinette, and it was really good. I highly recommend it if you're interested in a time period and in Marie Antoinette herself. He wrote novels, plays, and he also wrote an autobiography. What I'm actually very interested in is his historical studies of Honoré de Balzac, Charles Dickens, and Fyodor Dostoevsky. He was very popular in the 1920s and 1930s as an author, and now he's quite forgotten in my opinion. I don't hear anyone talking about him, and especially not about this novel. This was a phenomenal read, and when I looked up book reviews, there were only a couple online, which really baffles me. No one is talking about this book, so let's change that today. He was a collector of manuscripts, and a lot of these manuscripts are to be found in the British Museum in London. He lived in the time of World War II, and at a certain moment he had to flee because of the SS. Luckily for him, he didn't stay long in London because afterwards it was found that his name was on the list. So luckily he escaped arrest, but his name was listed on page 231 of the Black Book. He was Jewish and he lived in London, in New York, and in Brazil. He had been despairing at the future of Europe and of everything that was going on. And so on the 23rd of February 1942, he took his own life together with his wife. They passed away the day after he finished his autobiography, and they were found holding hands. I also want to share the note that he shared before he decided to leave this earth, and so this is how it goes. Before I depart from this life, of my own free will and with a clear mind, I want urgently to fulfill one last duty. I want to give heartfelt thanks to this wonderful country of Brazil, which has granted me and my work such kind and hospitable repose. Every day I have learned to love this country better, and nowhere would I be more gladly have rebuilt my life all over again, now that the world of my native tongue has perished for me and my spiritual home, Europe, is destroying itself. But one would need special powers to begin completely afresh when one has passed one's 60th year, and mine have been exhausted by long years of homeless wandering. It seems to me therefore better to put an end, in good time and without humiliation, to a life in which intellectual work has always been an unmixed joy and personal freedom earth's most precious possession. I greet all my friends. May they live to see the dawn after the long night is over. I, all too impatient, am going on alone. He published Beware of Pity in 1939, and it is his longest work of fiction. In 1946, there came a movie with the same title, but I haven't watched it yet. All right, what is this novel about? It's a psychological novel about guilt, about compassion, about emotional paralysis. And we follow a man called Lieutenant Anton Hofmiller, and he becomes entangled with a young girl named Edith. And I cannot say more without spoiling a part of the story. The point is that his well-meaning gestures, and especially his feigned affection, lead to this chain of tragic events. It is about misguided kindness and about the destructiveness of kindness and how kindness can turn into cruelty. I had an amazing experience with this novel. I never would have expected that it would turn out to be so good. Because, I'm going to tell you why, this is a modern classic, and I must admit that I don't have a lot of good experiences with modern classics. I tend to enjoy writing that was published before the 1900s for some reason, because it clicks more with me, and And so I was a bit reluctant to try it, but since Stefan Zweig recommended it, I really wanted to give it a try. I'm very glad that I did, because this was phenomenal. What I liked most about it was the writing. It feels elegant, it feels polished. It's like Zweig chose every word with such care. It flows and it feels intimate. You can just feel the emotions. They're just dripping off the page. The descriptions in this novel are also very vivid. It feels like you're in the room, and I want to give you an example of this. So I marked page 327, and it says, "And then we were at the dinner table together. The silver candlesticks glimmered in the candlelight. The flowers rose from their vases like flames of color. From mirror to mirror, the light of the crystal chandelier greeted its own reflections, and the house stood silent all around us, like the dark vaulting of a shell that nurses a brilliant pearl deep within. From time to time I fancied I could hear the trees breathing calmly outside, and the warm wind sensuously stroking the lawns as sweet air floated in through the open windows. It was all better, lovelier than ever. The old man sat like a priest, upright and solemn, and I had never seen Edith, or for that matter Ilona, looking so young and merry. Never had Joseph's shirt front gleamed so white. Never had the smooth skins of the fruit glowed so colorfully. And we sat and ate and drank and talked and rejoiced in the unity we had found once more." I just love this writing so much. As for the characters, so let me see what I wrote down. So Anton, our main character, I was so extremely invested in his moral dilemma. He is digging a hole for himself, and as a reader you see him digging and digging deeper and deeper. And it's both intriguing and painful to watch, if you know what I mean. It does get a little bit repetitive, and by the end I had this feeling like, okay, how many mistakes can you keep making in order to understand that you need to stop? So it gets a bit repetitive, but overall it's just a really wonderful novel. As for Edith, I cannot say much about her without spoiling the story, but she is a dramatic person, almost to the point of childishness. And because everyone spoils her and because everyone pities her, she always gets her way, which leads to a character that is overdramatic and a bit childish. I must say that when I was thinking about this and thinking about comparing this novel to something else, I couldn't think about a single novel, because this feels so original. It feels like one of a kind, and I highly recommend it if you love an introspective novel that also feels dramatic, that focuses on emotion, that focuses on pity, on the consequences of pity, and what damage it could do. So that was the review. I want to finish this video by reading you the quote on the first page, the opening of the novel. "There are in fact two kinds of pity. One, the feeble and sentimental kind, is really no more than the heart's impatience to free itself as quickly as possible from emotional discomfort when faced with another's misfortune. It is a sort of pity which is not at all genuine sympathy, shared feeling, but merely an instinctive defense of one's own soul against the other person's pain. Then there is the other kind, which is the only one that counts, unsentimental yet constructive, knowing its own mind, fully resolved to endure everything patiently, compassionately, along with that other person, right to the very limit of its strength, and even beyond that limit." Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week.